YouTube, we're back for more flaps part 2 UMX Aero Commander. Where we left off last, we were just doing some weight savings on this. We took the case off. You had to cut those apart. So now what we got to do next is figure out our game plan for whether or not we're going to take off the pins. And in this case, I'm really reluctant to do it because I don't want to waste it, but looks like we're already down to 4.8 grams. That's a huge savings. Just taking the case off made a big difference. Now we'll probably still have a little bit more effort here, but as far as I'm concerned, that's a big improvement. Now let's weigh these. These are the headers that came off of the Lemon RX one. That's almost 1.5 grams more. It's pretty hard to pass that up, so I think I'm going to do that now. Just studying this part for a second, I'm realizing these header pins are actually quite a bit bigger because they're the front pin style instead of they're the end pin instead of the top pin. These don't bend. Now, the other thought I had was I could conceivably just shorten the pins, because then this would still be potentially viable. Let's grab a bind plug for testing. Not that there's anything magical about a bind plug, it just will tell us how much penetration we need before it bites. Oh yeah, it's pretty much got to be all the way in there. So I know for sure I want to keep available the auxiliary one and the gear port, which are these ones over here. And it would be nice to keep the bind port available, which is where we could feed power into, but honestly, it might be easier to just steal power into the throttle channel. So I could eliminate this, this, and this. So that'd be 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, well, it should be 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So it's not quite half the weight of those. The other thing is these little separators, these little plastic things, we could also take those off, just in terms of trying to save some weight. It might help, it might be worth it, it might also be just destructive. So, but if we did that, we could shorten the pins by at least that much, and it's not going to compromise our ability to keep isolation from the rest of the electronics on this device. So I think right now probably what I'm leaning toward is I want to be able to use this receiver on another project. Let's go look at our map for a second and just see how much weight we really need to save on this thing. We're already down from almost 9 to 4.5. I might be able to gain another gram by taking these out. That'd be 3.5. So if we figure on, if we're saving, you know, from 9 to 3.5, that's a pretty big amount. That's going to give us room to work with, because if I save 1 gram, that's one of the linkage assemblies that goes across on the flaps. So keeping in mind, this thing is small enough now that I could almost mount it right to the servo, provided I don't get any RF noise from this crappy little Chinese motor here into this crappy little Chinese receiver. And obviously I want to make sure I'm not crossing paths with the actual doohickey. That's a doohickey, it's a technical term, guys. Oh, I hate these decisions, guys. Well, and the other thing is I could always solder into there if I decide to add retracts later on. The things we do for this hobby. Alright, let's jump onto this while I think about it. Okay, so right now we're at 7 grams for all intents and purposes. I know we could save some on weight here if I knew we were going to go ahead and do, like I was just talking about there. I could also use this wire to bridge down and tap into the available power elsewhere, but I don't know if I want to do that or not. The other thing is, anytime I do a big step, and I'm not going to sit here and say I did a big step yet, but I did do a step of taking the cabinet off. It might be worth the extra effort to just plop the power in here and make sure everything is still working as expected. Plus, the other thing I didn't think about is setting the throw. Throttle cuts on, not that it really matters, no motor hooked up. I don't know for sure what position I've got this in, because I didn't set up. Okay, so let's go into flap system. See how it says minus 100, plus 100? Okay. Speed's normal. We'll set that to 2 seconds or 1 second. Let's just set both of them. I had somebody tell me that you can set these UMX, the linear servos, to like 97% throws up and down, and you won't even notice it. And then you avoid hitting the ends. I don't know whether or not to believe that. So that's the maximum throw we're ever going to reliably get out of this thing. So that's the home position right there. So I need to remember that. And when I say the home position, I mean when I first power the unit on, that would be the neutral position. That'd be my fail-safe, because this is a fail-safe receiver, if I recall, on an Air 610. I think it is. So that means we should be okay to expect it to go to the home position in the event of a radio signal loss. And we can always loosen this screw later. Oh, I hate it when they move like that. Just got done unhooking it too. I should have tightened it first. It's nice to know what position it's going to be approximately. Let's go ahead and save some weight on this. So let's cut the tabs off. We know for sure the tabs aren't going to do us any good. Let's go ahead and cut those. Man, those things are a doozy to cut. They're very strong. Probably shut that off too. That'll be glued to the surface, or double-sided tape. I really like the double-sided tape method. That worked really nice because it's super light and it's really strong. It's a lot lighter than glue, but then it gives just that little teeny bit of flexibility that you'd not get with glue. And then we'll use just a little bit of CA on the edges to actually firm it up some. Okay. So far this will be the minimal amount of weight savings, and we're going to go in and carve like we did on the Cessna 182. And this is hard fought weight, guys. You don't really want to give any of this stuff up. Well, I mean, labels is not a big deal, but I hate giving up little features like cases and stuff, because it always seems like there's something else got to go in its place. Well, it's going to be a lot lighter at least. Right next to the wire, of course. Okay, I'm just going to remember that needs to move over there. Okay, now I'm going to put that back to its approximate home position. Okay, cool. So far, let's see how much we've saved. We were just under 7 grams. Okay, so we've saved very little, which is not a surprise. I kind of expected that. No, I totally expected that. Let me just say that right. And at this point, I don't know which side is going to be the side down, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing the same function either way. which is going to be to remove a little bit of this plastic material without compromising the integrity of this case. And that's why I don't cross-hatch it. Sounds really nice, doesn't it? That was super annoying, guys. Sorry. Okay, so now we just need to get our little sanding block thing and just knock off the edges, because the whole idea is to save weight, so we want to get completely rid of the parts there that we just loosened. Put that back into its approximate home position. Okay, so now we probably haven't saved too much weight yet. Zero that. 6.65, whatever. Hardly saved anything, guys. That's not worth the screwing around. But whatever. It's just the little details that add up to the big picture when it comes to this sort of thing. I still think we're probably going to go ahead and have to take these pins off, these header pins. I'm nervous about doing it. This is a high consequence maneuver. I don't think this board is a multi-layer board. I think it's a single layer board, because I can't see that there would be anywhere for them to put anything. But sometimes you can't see. So let's just get on with it and do it. This time I'm going to try to push him that way. And my plan is to hang on to these pins. Okay, remember we've got bind. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I wonder how hard it would be to just solder in the lines. It'd probably be super easy. I could just feed the wires through. That would save me the connector. But then if I have a servo go bad, it's a huge pain in the butt. I don't know. Let's cut the black plastic at least, and then we can be sure that the things will separate out at least. Get that thing really hot. Okay. I was having visions of going a little too far and cutting into the circuitry right there. That's why I got nervous there. Now you'll notice I never move this over here. That's because I have a plane up there. If you like to use it, my camera's screwed up, so this will either be a continuation of part 2, or it's going to be a new part 3. But you'll find out from watching the context of the video here. Okay, so where we left off, I was fighting desoldering these. I did get them desoldered, and what I was left with was the other little black things that go down here and keep the headers lined up, and I peeled those off as well. And then I had the servo here, so what I was going to do is I was going to quickly just give you guys a real close look at this, if I can get it to focus. And then I'm going to plug this in. Okay, so that's the top channel, which would be the flaps channel as configured. And then I'm going to turn on my radio, and we'll plug in the power system here just to make sure everything's still working now that we've done our major setup. Okay, so you can hear it come to life. So that's flaps. So as you can see, gear doesn't do anything because gear's not hooked up to anything yet. But if we decided later we wanted to have gear, well, then we could just plug into that with a second servo without compromising the flaps, of course. Now, do you remember earlier how I was talking about how I could possibly shorten the pins? Well, that was the other thought I had. And so what I was going to do is I was just going to de-energize this real quick. Might as well unplug the battery. Oh, I hate that when the heat shrink slips like that, guys. If you ever have that happen, by the way, these XT60s, you can take a fine screwdriver, provided it's on the ESC side, and you can open or close those pins to make them grab or release easier or harder. It's like if this one's grabbing really hard, you can just take and try to push those together. I mean, of course, grabbing harder would be better, but squeeze those together just a little bit. And what you'll do is, watch how much easier this goes in. See, I was fighting it before, now it's fine. So just a little quick tip there. Alright, so what we need to do now is, because we've saved quite a bit of weight, but let's get a little bit more out of it. We've lost at least this much on the bottom. So let's determine how much we can get away with total. Now, the other thought was, let's just, for grids and giggles, we have a reference here so we can quickly put this back. Let's take the sharp blade. Let's go ahead and peel back each of these pins, okay? We're pulling back that little plastic tab, and then we're pulling out the actual connector, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to see how much this plastic thingy-mabobber weighs. I'm pretty sure it has a correct name. I'm pretty sure it's a servo connector. But I never know if it's male or female, because in the RC world, pins and sockets do matter, but the connectors evidently also get considered somehow, which is sort of stupid, but whatever. In the industrial marketplace, that would not happen. Or at least not in my industrial marketplace. Okay, so let's just throw it on the scale. Yeah, it's 0.2. Yeah, we're getting rid of that thing. That's not going to do us any good. And remember, I can take another servo. If I get a new servo, I can do that there too. So then, of course, we just have to make sure that they line up properly. And of course, we're going to add heat shrink to keep those things from touching. So let's double check. Let's see if we got a size that'll work. Got this clear stuff super light, but too small. This green stuff will work. And I honestly don't care what color it is. It doesn't matter, because you've got the wires here to tell. Sometimes it's nice to not have to guess. But to be honest with you, I have red, black, and red, and yellow. I could also just do the 3 colors that'd be closest. And then let's compare the weight. Okay, so this is the red stuff I'm going to use. Hobby King part number. I'm just gonna, it's a little bit bigger, but it'll be fine for what we're doing. I don't think it's gonna amount to any extra weight. Well, not a distinguishable amount, negligible amount. And then, of course, if we need to bind, we'll still have the bind plug, which honestly I hope I never have to bind. Well, that's a kind of a stupid thing to say. I hope I don't have to bind again, because that means my DX18 has either become obsolete or I've had a problem with it. Okay, so here's your part number on that. Okay, so we have the 3 pieces now, and that's going to be juxtaposed to this end. Okay, so we'll just put those in there. So 0.15. Come on. I would say that it's probably close to about half the weight. Okay, it's hard to be 100% certain on that, but I could probably shorten these up just a little bit too. Let's see how much we absolutely need. Yeah, we're pretty much where we are, where we're going to need to be if we want to cover it up. So yeah, hard fought weight here, I guess, guys. That's all I can say. You wouldn't have to cover the whole thing up too. You could also probably just put CA over the stuff, but I'm just afraid I'd get it into the spring-loaded portion. Oh, come on. So we'll just pull that forward just a little bit. It slipped on us just a hair. The red one's just ever so slightly too long. Like I said, hard fought weight savings. I don't want to just slop it together. Well, and the other thing that would be probably a pretty good idea on here is, of course, now that we've got that connector off of there, we can shorten these pins even further so that we know we've got a good bite. And yet we can... What the heck? Okie dokie. Alright, good. So now we can shorten our pins. Okay, so one thing I'm sort of kicking myself about now is I've got all this cable here. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have this receiver in a different spot from the servo on this plane. So I may end up taking these connectors off altogether. So if that ends up happening, then that would be fine in my book. But it's just more a matter of, I don't know the exact orientation that I need all this stuff in yet. And so it's very scary to make a commitment to that at this juncture in the game. Because look, I could mount this thing like that to the side of the case, and if I knew for sure that that was going to fit, then I could just do a double-sided piece of tape on the servo itself, and then I could just lose this whole bit here, which would be a lot of extra weight saved. Don't get me wrong, I'll be able to use these on something else someday, but that's kind of what I'm leaning toward right now. And the double-sided tape, if you had a servo fail, which is always a possibility, then you can just cut it off or rip it off and then melt it off and wipe it down with alcohol. So anyway, that's where I'm going to go with this. But for now, let's look how much we've saved already. Make sure we start from 0. We're down to 4.1. That's a lot better. And ultimately, if we get rid of these other pins, we're probably going to save maybe another gram, if that. That'd be pretty awesome. Plus, we're going to save, I would say conservatively, we'll save a gram on this weight. Let's see how much. Guys, I know this hard-fought weight savings is not very exciting stuff, but if you're trying to make these little ultra micros work and still fly good, you kind of got to be weight sensitive on this sort of stuff. Okay, so that's going to be the end of part number 2, I think. As you can see, we've gone from being really heavy to being, so let's call it 10.7 grams. Conservatively, we're probably going to be a little bit better, and we started at 15.8, so we've saved a third of the weight already, which is a big deal when you're talking about a small plane. So we're going to end this video now. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to continue, like, subscribe, make comments if you want, and if you want bells, or if you want notifications, click the bell, and we'll keep you up to date as we're doing the progress on this. Be done soon. Can't guarantee it's going to be tonight, though, guys. Thanks a lot for watching.